The stars looked different tonight. Captain John Miller noticed it first from the observation deck of Earth Defense Station Alpha. Something blocked the familiar constellations. The station's alarms began to blare moments later. Unknown objects. "Entering the solar system, Captain," said Communications Officer Lisa Dawson. Her voice remained steady despite the red warning lights flashing across her console. Miller rushed to the main command center. The large screen showed several massive shapes moving past Jupiter's orbit. They were ships, but unlike anything humans had built. Each one was at least 3 miles long with strange angled sections that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect. "Get me Earth Command," Miller ordered. His heart beat faster, but 20 years of military service kept his face calm. Within minutes, the station linked with military bases across Earth. General Alan Clark's face appeared on screen, looking as worried as Miller felt. "We're tracking them too, Miller. Our best guess is they'll reach Earth orbit in 48 hours. The President wants peaceful contact if possible. Your station is closest. You'll lead the welcome party." Miller nodded. "Understood, sir. We'll prepare a communication package immediately." For the next day, Lisa Dawson worked with scientists to create messages of peace in every human language and mathematical format they could imagine. The unknown ships continued their direct path toward Earth, ignoring all attempts at communication. "They must understand we're trying to talk to them," Dawson said, frustration clear in her voice. She had studied alien contact theories for years, but theory was now becoming reality. On the second day, the ship slowed near Mars. The largest vessel moved ahead of the others, positioning itself between Earth and its moon. "They've stopped," Miller told Earth Command, "and they're finally responding to our signals." The alien message came through as a series of mathematical equations that the station's computers quickly decoded. The aliens called themselves the Vrikari and requested a meeting with Earth representatives. 6 hours later, Miller and Dawson led a small team aboard a shuttle toward the massive Vrikari command ship. Miller looked at his team. 5 humans representing Earth on humanity's most important mission. Besides Dawson, he had brought Dr. Sam Rivera, a xenobiologist, Chief Engineer Ben Foster, and Security Officer Karen Wu. "Remember," Miller told them as their shuttle approached the alien vessel, "we represent all of humanity. Let's make a good first impression." The Vrikari ship opened a section of its hull, revealing a docking bay large enough to hold 20 Earth shuttles. Their small craft seemed tiny as it landed inside the massive space. "Atmosphere reads as breathable," Rivera said, checking his instruments. "Similar to Earth's, but with higher oxygen content." The shuttle door opened, and the team stepped onto the deck of an alien ship. The interior glowed with soft blue light. The walls looked like metal but felt warm to the touch, almost like skin. 3 tall figures approached. The Vrikari stood nearly 7 feet tall, with gray-green skin that seemed both scaly and smooth. They had 4 arms and walked with a strange grace despite their size. Their faces had no nose, just breathing slits, and their 3 eyes formed a triangle pattern above a small mouth. The center Vrikari stepped forward. "I am General Zithrak of the Vrikari Empire," it said in perfect English. The voice sounded mechanical, clearly translated through some device. "We welcome Earth's representatives," Miller stepped forward. "Captain John Miller of the Earth Defense Force. We come in peace and friendship." Zithrak's mouth formed what might have been a smile. "Of course. All new species say the same. Come, we have prepared a meeting space." The humans followed the Kos aliens through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked. They entered a large room with a round table in the center. For hours, they talked. The Vrikari asked many questions about Earth, its resources, population centers, military capabilities. Dawson noticed they shared very little about themselves in return. "Our empire spans 32 worlds," Zithrak explained when Dawson asked directly. "We bring order to chaos, unity to division. We have much to offer Earth." When the meeting ended, the humans returned to their shuttle. As they prepared to leave, Dawson pulled Miller aside. "They're gathering intelligence, not building friendship," she whispered. Did you notice how all their questions focused on our defenses and resources? Miller nodded. I noticed. We'll report everything to Earth Command. For the next week, meetings continued between human representatives and the Ricari. On Earth, governments argued about how to respond. Some wanted to welcome the aliens openly. Others urged caution or even military preparation. Miller's station maintained constant watch on the alien fleet. More Ricari ships arrived daily, positioning themselves around Earth. They've invited me to their command ship again, Dawson told Miller one morning. They want to discuss cultural exchange programs. Take Wu with you, Miller said. Something doesn't feel right. Dawson and Security Officer Wu departed for the alien vessel at noon. 3 hours later, all communication with them stopped. At the same time, Miller's sensors detected energy buildups in all Ricari ships. They're powering weapons, shouted the sensor operator. Miller hit the emergency alert. All stations, the Ricari are... His words cut off as the first energy beam struck the station. The command center shook violently, throwing people against walls. Emergency systems failed instantly. Through the viewports, Miller watched in horror as dozens of smaller Ricari ships descended toward Earth. Bright flashes of light marked where cities had once stood. Get to the escape shuttles, Miller ordered as smoke filled the command center. He helped injured crew members through failing corridors. As the station broke apart around them, only one shuttle launched successfully, carrying Miller and 11 survivors. As they fled, Miller watched his station explode. On Earth below, major cities burned. Why? Asked a young technician, tears streaming down his face. We offered peace. Miller stared at the devastation, his jaw tight. Because they never wanted peace, they wanted conquest. The shuttle's radio picked up emergency broadcasts from Earth. The Ricari attacked everywhere at once: New York, London, Beijing, Moscow. All major cities suffered direct hits in the first minutes. They think we'll surrender now, Miller said quietly. They think destroying our cities will break us. He looked at the faces of his surviving crew, seeing shock transform into determination. They don't understand humans at all, he continued. They don't know that humans fight hardest when we have nothing left to lose. As their small shuttle headed toward the ruins of what was once Chicago, Miller made a silent promise. This wasn't the end of humanity. It was just the beginning of the Ricari learning a painful lesson about human resilience. 3 months passed since the Ricari attack. Earth was no longer the blue-green planet it once was. Smoke still rose from the ruins of major cities. Alien ships filled the skies, and strange metal structures now dotted the landscape. These were processing centers where the Ricari extracted Earth's resources. Lieutenant Kate Harrison watched one such facility through binoculars from her hiding spot in the Rocky Mountains. Once, she had commanded a tank unit. Now she led 30 survivors, who called themselves Eagle Resistance. They're bringing in new drilling equipment, she told the man beside her. Looks like they're going deeper for minerals. Peter Gonzalez nodded. He had been an engineer before the invasion. Now he used his skills to turn alien tech into weapons for the resistance. If we could get our hands on those power cells, I could make something useful. Harrison lowered her binoculars. Let's head back to camp and make a plan. Their camp was 3 caves connected by narrow passages. It held survivors from nearby towns, soldiers, civilians, and children who had escaped the initial attack. Similar groups existed across what remained of human territory. Back at camp, Harrison called her team together. We need those power cells, she explained. We'll hit their transport when it moves through the valley tomorrow. The next day, Harrison's team waited behind rock formations as a Ricari transport hovered along the valley floor. It moved slowly, carrying equipment and materials from the processing center. Wait for my signal, Harrison whispered into her radio. Her hands were steady on her rifle, a weapon now modified with alien technology. The transport passed their position. Harrison fired a single shot, hitting the vehicle's engine. It sputtered and crashed to the ground. 6 Ricari soldiers emerged, their forearms already holding weapons. Now, Harrison shouted. Her team opened fire from multiple positions. The Vakari were fast, but the humans had planned carefully. Within minutes, all 6 aliens were dead. "Quick, grab what we need and disappear," Harrison ordered. They took power cells, weapons, and a communication device before vanishing back into the mountains. That night, Gonzalez examined their prizes. "With these power cells, I can boost our radio range. We might contact other resistance groups." Harrison nodded. "Do it. We need to know we're not alone." Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Captain John Miller led a different kind of resistance in the ruins of Chicago. The city had been one of the first hit in the initial attack. Now its broken buildings provided perfect hiding places. Miller's group included both military and civilians. They moved constantly, never staying in one place long enough for the Vakari to find them. Today they huddled in the basement of what was once a library. "The aliens are changing their patrol patterns," said Joe Martinez, a former police officer who now served as their scout. "They're getting smarter, adapting to our ambushes." Miller nodded. "Then we need to be smarter too." He spread a hand-drawn map on the floor. "We'll split into smaller groups. Harder to track, harder to catch." A static-filled voice suddenly came from their cobbled-together radio. "This is Eagle Resistance calling any human survivors. We are based in the Rocky Mountains. Please respond. If you hear this message." Miller grabbed the radio. "This is Captain John Miller in Chicago. We hear you, Eagle Resistance." For the first time in months, humans from different regions made contact. Over the next few days, more resistance groups responded. Miller's map began to fill with locations across the country. "We're not alone," he told his people, "and we're not beaten." On the main Vakari ship, Lisa Dawson remained a prisoner. The aliens kept her in a small cell, bringing her out only for questioning. They wanted to understand why humans continued to fight when their cities lay in ruins. "Your species is irrational," said Commander Zithrak during one session. "We have conquered 30 worlds. All others surrendered when their major cities fell." Dawson looked at the alien with steady eyes. "That's because you don't understand humans. We don't give up just because things look hopeless." Zithrak made a sound like grinding metal, a Rakari laugh. "Your resistance is meaningless. You have no army, no government, no resources." "We have nothing left to lose," Dawson replied, "and that makes us dangerous." Later that night in her cell, Dawson continued her secret work. For weeks she had been loosening a panel near her bed. The Vakari thought humans were weaker than they were. They underestimated what determination could accomplish. Finally, the panel came free. Behind it ran tubes and wires, the ship's systems. Dawson had studied engineering before joining the Earth Defense Force. Now she used that knowledge to learn about the alien vessel. Back on Earth, Harrison's team successfully connected with other resistance groups. Together, they planned coordinated attacks on Vakari supply lines. "If we can't beat them in direct fights, we'll bleed them slowly," Harrison told her team. "Make Earth too costly to hold." In Chicago, Miller received a new arrival, an older man named Frank Booker. He had been a history professor before the invasion. "The Vakari remind me of every empire in human history," Booker told Miller. "They expect quick surrender. They don't plan for long resistance." "How does that help us?" Miller asked. "Empires have supply lines," Booker explained. "Even alien ones. Cut the supplies, and the military fails. It's been true for thousands of years of human warfare." Miller nodded slowly. "We target their supply ships, not their soldiers." The resistance began to adapt. Instead of attacking Vakari patrols, they sabotaged equipment. They poisoned food stores meant for alien consumption. They disrupted communication between Vakari bases. The aliens responded with increased brutality. They destroyed entire towns when resistance was found nearby. They executed humans publicly. They thought fear would succeed where force had failed. But something unexpected happened. The harsher the Vakari became, the more determined humans grew. Survivors flocked to resistance groups. Even children helped by gathering information or serving as lookouts. In her cell on the Vakari ship, Dawson made a discovery. The aliens had a weakness. Certain Earth bacteria made them sick. Nothing deadly, but enough to weaken them. She carefully collected this information, waiting for her chance to escape. 6 months after the invasion, the Ricari held most of Earth's territory. But they did not hold its people. Humans adapted, survived, and fought back in ways the aliens could not predict. General Zithrak grew frustrated. Why won't these humans accept defeat? He demanded of his officers. We control their planet. We have destroyed their cities. Yet they continue to resist. His second-in-command replied, Perhaps we should study them more carefully. No other species has resisted this long. No, Zithrak decided. We will break them completely. Order the destruction of Chicago. Leave nothing standing. The next day, Ricari ships descended on the ruins of Chicago. Energy weapons turned rubble into ash. Thousands of hiding humans died in minutes. The message spread quickly through resistance channels. Chicago was gone. But rather than breaking human will, it had the opposite effect. Resistance leaders like Harrison and Miller received the same message from their people. We fight harder now. We make them pay. The Ricari had made a critical error. They didn't understand that humans fight best with nothing left to lose. The destruction of Chicago changed everything. 6 months into the Ricari occupation, the aliens expected humans to finally lose hope. They were wrong. Kate Harrison received the news about Chicago while planning an attack on a Ricari fuel depot. Her team fell silent as the message came through their makeshift radio. They destroyed the entire city, she said, her voice tight. Miller's resistance group was based there. How many dead? Peter Gonzalez asked. Thousands, maybe more. Harrison stood up straighter, but Miller got out with some of his people. They're regrouping in the ruins of Detroit. That night, Harrison couldn't sleep. She climbed to a high point above their mountain camp and looked at the stars. Somewhere up there, the main Ricari fleet hung in orbit. She wondered if they were celebrating their victory. They think this will break us, she whispered to herself. They have no idea what they've done. The next morning, Harrison called her team together. The plan has changed, she announced. We're no longer just trying to survive. From now on, we hurt them every chance we get. Miles away, John Miller led his remaining fighters through the underground tunnels beneath Detroit. The once proud city was now a shell, but its network of old subway tunnels and utility passages made perfect hiding places. They think they got us all in Chicago, Miller told his people. That gives us an advantage. They won't be looking for us. Miller's second-in-command, a former Army sergeant named Ray Dixon, nodded in agreement. We need to send a message. Show them that destroying Chicago only made us stronger. First, we need intelligence, Miller replied. We can't just attack blindly. As if answering his words, their radio crackled to life. A voice came through, weak but clear enough to understand. This is Lisa Dawson broadcasting on all frequencies. I've escaped the Ricari command ship. If any human resistance can hear me, I have critical information. I'm hiding near what used to be Cleveland. Miller grabbed the radio. Lisa, this is John Miller. We thought you were dead. Not yet, came the reply. But I need extraction. The Ricari are hunting me. Miller turned to Dixon. Take our fastest vehicle and 3 people, find her and bring her back. 2 days later, Dixon returned with Lisa Dawson. She was thinner than Miller remembered, with new scars on her face and arms, but her eyes burned with determination. You made it, Miller said, embracing his old friend. Barely, Dawson replied. But it was worth it. I learned things about the Ricari while I was their prisoner. Things that can help us fight them. That night, resistance leaders gathered around a map as Dawson explained what she had discovered. The Ricari have a major weakness, she said. Earth bacteria, nothing immediately fatal, but certain types make them sick enough to be ineffective in combat. How do we use that? Harrison asked over the radio connection. We need to develop a delivery system, Dawson explained. Something that can spread. These bacteria in their bases, their ships. Gonzalez spoke up from the Rocky Mountain base. I can work on that, but we'll need samples from their facilities. That's not all, Dawson continued. Their command structure is rigid. They don't adapt well when plans fail. And most importantly, They're getting nervous. Humans are the first species to keep fighting after major defeats. It confuses them. Miller nodded slowly. So we use their confusion against them. The next week, resistance groups across North America coordinated their first major offensive. Harrison's team attacked a Ricari communication relay in the mountains. Miller's group sabotaged a landing zone near Detroit. Other groups hit transportation hubs, supply depots, and small outposts. The Ricari response was swift and brutal. They bombed suspected resistance areas and increased patrols around their facilities. But something had changed. The aliens seemed less confident, more reactive than before. On the Ricari command ship, General Zethrock received disturbing reports from his field commanders. Human attacks have increased by 200% since we destroyed Chicago, said his intelligence officer. They're targeting our supply lines and communication systems. Impossible, Zethrock hissed. We broke their largest remaining resistance group. Apparently not, General. And there's more. The human prisoner, Dawson, she has escaped. Zethrock smashed his fist against the wall, leaving a dent in the metal. Find her, and increase our offensive operations. Destroy every human settlement you find. Leave them nowhere to hide. The Ricari escalated their attacks. They razed towns and farms. They poisoned water sources. They destroyed historical monuments and cultural sites. In the Rocky Mountains, Harrison's team discovered a Ricari scout team setting up atmosphere processors, machines that would slowly change Earth's air to better suit alien biology. If they activate enough of these, humans won't be able to breathe the air, Gonzalez explained after examining a captured processor. Harrison made a decision. We need to warn all resistance groups, and we need to capture one of these intact. Maybe we can reverse engineer it. The raid went wrong from the start. Ricari forces had set a trap, anticipating human interest in the processors. Harrison's team found themselves pinned down in a narrow valley, taking heavy fire from multiple directions. We need to retreat, shouted one of her fighters. No, Harrison replied firmly. We need that processor. It's worth dying for. She looked at her people, tired, dirty, but determined. Listen to me. The Ricari think destroying our homes would break us. They think taking everything would make us give up, but they don't understand humans at all. Harrison stood up, exposing herself to enemy fire. When humans have nothing left to lose, that's when we're most dangerous. That's when we stop being afraid. Her team watched in amazement as she charged forward, firing her weapon. One by one, they followed. The Ricari weren't prepared for such a direct assault. They had learned that humans usually preferred hit-and-run tactics. The aliens fell back in confusion as Harrison's team pushed forward with reckless courage. When it was over, 12 humans had captured the processor facility. 5 were wounded, 2 fatally. But they had secured a working processor and captured 3 Ricari soldiers. Harrison contacted Miller's group immediately. We've got prisoners and technology, and we've proven something important today. What's that? Miller asked. That the more they take from us, the less we have to lose. And the less we have to lose, the harder we fight. In Detroit, Dawson worked with resistance scientists to develop their new weapon, a biological agent that would sicken but not kill Ricari troops. Using bacteria samples from Earth soil, they created something the aliens had no defense against. It's ready for testing, Dawson told Miller. We can use it on the prisoners Harrison captured. Miller considered this. No, we're not them. We don't experiment on prisoners, even alien ones. Then, how do we know it works? Dawson asked. Miller looked at the map of Ricari positions. We tested in the field. Hit their main base in what used to be Washington, D.C. All across Earth, humans who once thought themselves defeated began to find new strength. The Ricari had taken everything from them, homes, families, futures. But in doing so, they had created an enemy with nothing left to lose. And as the aliens were about to learn, that was the most dangerous enemy of all. 9 months into the Ricari occupation of Earth, the balance began to shift. The aliens still controlled most major territories, but they paid a heavy price for each day they remained. John Miller stood on the roof of an abandoned building in Detroit watching Ricari ships move through the night sky. Their patterns had changed. They flew in tighter formations now, always with escort fighters. They were afraid. "They're calling for reinforcements," said Lisa Dawson, joining him on the roof. "I intercepted their communications. More Ricari ships are coming." Miller nodded. "How long do we have?" 2 weeks, maybe 3. Their empire is stretched thin. They didn't expect to need so many troops for Earth. The biological weapon Dawson had developed proved effective beyond their hopes. Resistance fighters had released it into the ventilation systems of Ricari bases across North America. Within days, alien soldiers began falling sick. Nothing fatal, but enough to keep them from fighting effectively. "We need to hit them harder before their reinforcements arrive," Miller said. "Contact Harrison. It's time for the big push." In the Rocky Mountains, Kate Harrison received Miller's message while planning their next operation. Her resistance group had grown to over 100 fighters. They had captured enough Ricari weapons and vehicles to pose a serious threat. "Miller wants to coordinate a global assault," she told her team. "All resistance groups hitting major Ricari installations at the same time." Peter Gonzalez looked up from the alien device he was modifying. "We're not ready for open warfare. We don't have the numbers." "We don't need numbers," Harrison replied. "We have something better, desperation, and we have this." She pointed to Gonzalez's work. The device was a Ricari communication module, reprogrammed to hijack their network. With it, the resistance could intercept alien messages and send false orders. "Is it ready?" Harrison asked. Gonzalez nodded. "It works. We can make their troops go exactly where we want them." Harrison smiled for the first time in months. "Perfect." There. Next day, resistance leaders from around the world connected through their makeshift communication network. Miller outlined the plan. "We hit them everywhere at once," he explained. "Using Gonzalez's device, we'll send their troops to defend empty locations while we strike their actual bases." "What about their ships in orbit?" asked a resistance leader from Europe. Dawson answered. "They've pulled most of their fleet to protect their main command ship. They're vulnerable on the ground." The global assault began at dawn. In North America, Harrison led the attack on the Ricari's largest processing facility in the former Denver. Miller's group targeted their regional headquarters in Detroit. Around the world, resistance fighters emerged from hiding to strike. The Ricari were caught unprepared. False orders sent their reinforcements to phantom attacks, leaving real targets undermanned. The biological agent had weakened many of their soldiers. For the first time, the aliens were on the defensive. Harrison's team fought their way through the Denver facility. The Ricari fought back fiercely, but they were disorganized and sick. Human determination overwhelmed alien technology. "Push forward," Harrison shouted as they reached the central control room. "Don't give them time to regroup." In Detroit, Miller's assault met heavier resistance. The Ricari commander there had ignored the false orders, suspecting a trap. Miller watched as his fighters were pinned down by alien weapons. "We need to fall back," suggested Ray Dixon, taking cover beside him. "No," Miller replied. "If we retreat now, they'll know we're vulnerable. We need to break through." Miller looked at his people, tired, scared, but willing to follow him. He thought of all they had lost, all the reasons they had to give up. But they hadn't. They fought on. "Listen to me," he called out. "The Ricari think they've won because they've taken everything from us. Our homes, our families, our world. But they don't understand humans. When we have nothing left to lose, that's when we're strongest." Miller stood up, exposing himself to enemy fire. "Follow me. Show them what humans can do." His fighters rose with a shout, charging forward in a wave. The Ricari, surprised by the sudden assault, fell back in confusion. Human courage overcame alien discipline. By nightfall, resistance groups had captured key installations around the world. The Ricari were in retreat, falling back to their remaining strongholds. For the first time, humans controlled significant territory. In orbit, General Zethrak received the reports with growing rage. "Impossible," he shouted at his officers. "How can they be winning? They have inferior weapons, inferior numbers, inferior everything." His second-in-command spoke carefully. "They fight differently when cornered, General. They take risks no rational species would consider. They sacrifice themselves willingly. They're animals, Zithrak hissed. Call down all available ships. Burn their resistance bases to ash. But there was a new problem. Many Vrikari soldiers were beginning to question their mission. Reports from the ground showed humans treating captured aliens with unexpected mercy. The biological weapon caused sickness, but not death. A restraint the Vrikari themselves never showed. Some Vrikari units refused orders to fire on civilian areas. Others retreated without fighting. The rigid command structure that had conquered 30 worlds was beginning to fracture. On Earth, the resistance celebrated their victories, but Miller and Harrison knew the war wasn't over. They've called down their orbital fleet, Dawson reported after intercepting Vrikari communications. They'll be here within days. Then we need to be ready for them, Miller replied. He turned to Frank Booker, the history professor who had joined his group months ago. You said empires fall when they're overextended. How do we use that? Booker considered the question. We need to make Earth too costly to hold, not just in lives, but in resources. The Vrikari Empire can't pour everything into one planet. We need a bigger target, Harrison said over the radio link. Something that would hurt them more than losing a few bases. Gonzalez, who had been listening quietly, suddenly spoke up. What about their command ship? If we could capture or destroy it, the room fell silent. The Vrikari command ship was the largest vessel in orbit, heavily armed and shielded. Attacking it seemed impossible. We'd need a ship of our own, Miller said finally. We have one, Harrison replied. We captured a small Vrikari scout ship last week. It's damaged, but Gonzalez thinks he can get it flying. A scout ship against their command vessel? Dawson sounded skeptical. That's suicide. Not if we don't try to fight it, Harrison explained. We just need to get aboard. A small team carrying the biological agent. Release it into their air system. Miller nodded slowly. A Trojan horse. I'll go, Harrison volunteered. My team captured the ship. We know how it works. And I'll go with her, Gonzalez added. Someone needs to pilot it and handle any technical problems. Miller looked at the map showing Vrikari positions around the world. They had achieved more than anyone thought possible, but the war's outcome still hung in the balance. The command ship was the key. Okay, he agreed. But you'll need more than just the biological agent. You'll need a way to disable their weapons or they'll destroy our bases from orbit before the sickness spreads through their crew. Frank Booker, who rarely spoke at strategy meetings, cleared his throat. I have an idea, but it will require a significant sacrifice. As dawn broke the next day, the remaining resistance leaders finalized their plan. It was dangerous, perhaps, impossible. But humans had already accomplished the impossible many times in this war. Remember, Miller told them all, the Vrikari still don't understand us. They think taking everything from us makes us weak. They don't realize it makes us unstoppable. 1 year after the Vrikari invasion began, the captured scout ship rose from Earth's surface. Kate Harrison and Peter Gonzalez sat in the pilot seats. Behind them, 4 resistance fighters checked their weapons and equipment. Each carried containers of the biological agent that had proven so effective against the aliens. Command ship is directly above North America, Gonzalez said, reading the alien navigation system. Standard orbit, heavy defenses. Harrison nodded. Remember, we look like a returning scout. Act normal until we're inside their docking bay. The small ship climbed higher, breaking through clouds into the upper atmosphere. Below them, Earth showed the scars of war. Burned cities, destroyed forests, and the strange metal structures the Vrikari had built to extract resources. They're hailing us, Gonzalez reported. He activated the response system they had prepared, a looped recording of Vrikari communication signals. For a tense minute, they waited. Then the alien command ship responded with landing instructions. They bought it, Harrison whispered. At least for now. Meanwhile, on the ground, John Miller prepared the second phase of their plan. Resistance groups worldwide were ready to launch simultaneous attacks on remaining Vrikari bases. but success depended on Harrison's team disabling the command ship first. "Any word?" Lisa Dawson asked, joining Miller at their makeshift command center. "Not yet. They should be approaching the ship now." Miller looked at the people around him, fighters who had survived a year of alien occupation. They had lost homes, loved ones, and any sense of normal life. But they had gained something too, a fierce determination that surprised even themselves. In space, the scout ship approached the massive Ricari command vessel. The alien ship was enormous, over 3 miles long with strange angles and protrusions that seemed to absorb light. Hundreds of smaller craft moved around it like insects around a hive. "Docking bay ahead," Gonzalez said. "Weapons ready?" Harrison checked her rifle, modified with salvaged alien technology. "Ready. Remember, we need to reach their environmental control center. Release the agent there and it will spread throughout the ship." The scout ship entered the docking bay and landed among identical vessels. For a moment, everything seemed calm. Then alarms blared throughout the bay. "They know," shouted one of the fighters. Harrison nodded grimly. "Plan B, then. We fight our way through." They exited the ship, immediately taking fire from Ricari soldiers. The humans responded with practiced precision, using the alien ship's design against its defenders. They moved from cover to cover, advancing deeper into the vessel. "This way," Gonzalez called, reading a stolen ship schematic. "Environmental controls are 3 levels up." The team battled through corridors, facing increasing resistance. 2 fighters fell to Ricari weapons, but the remaining humans pushed forward with desperate courage. On Earth, Miller received the signal that Harrison's team had been discovered. He immediately launched the second phase of the plan. "All resistance groups begin your attacks," he ordered through their communication network. "Draw their attention from the command ship." Around the world, humans struck at Ricari positions. But these weren't just random attacks. Each targeted the aliens' communication arrays, preventing them from coordinating their defense. Back on the command ship, Harrison's team reached a large chamber filled with machinery. "This is it," Gonzalez confirmed. "Environmental control. Center." Harrison looked around. "Where do we release the agent?" Before Gonzalez could answer, a deep voice spoke from behind them. "You release nothing, human." They turned to see General Zithrak flanked by elite guards. The Ricari commander was larger than ordinary soldiers, his 4 arms each holding a different weapon. "I should thank you," Zithrak said. "You've proven my point about your species. Irrational to the end, throwing away lives in pointless gestures." Harrison raised her weapon, but Ricari soldiers disarmed her team before they could fire. "Your resistance has been impressive," Zithrak continued. "No species has fought so hard after defeat, but it ends now. I've ordered the destruction of all remaining human settlements. Earth will be cleansed for proper colonization." Harrison looked at the alien general with steady eyes. "You still don't understand us at all. Taking everything from humans doesn't break us. It frees us to fight without restraint." "Meaningless words from a dying species," Zithrak replied. He raised a weapon, aiming at Harrison's head. Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared through every corridor. "What was that?" Zithrak demanded of his officers. One checked a console, his 3 eyes widening in shock. "Impact on our main reactor. It's a human shuttle, sir. It rammed us at full speed." On the ground, Miller watched the sky as Frank Booker's suicide mission reached its target. The old history professor had volunteered to fly a fuel-laden shuttle directly into the command ship's core. He knew he wouldn't return. "Their main weapon systems are offline," Dawson reported, monitoring Ricari communications. "Booker did it." Miller nodded solemnly. "Now Harrison." In the confusion aboard the command ship, Harrison's team seized their moment. Gonzalez grabbed a container of the biological agent and smashed it into the environmental control intake. More containers followed, releasing clouds of microscopic particles into the ship's air system. "Kill them," Zithrak ordered, but his soldiers were already coughing, their breathing slits contracting against the invisible threat. Harrison faced the alien general. "You took our homes, our cities, our planet. You thought leaving us with nothing would make us surrender. But humans fight hardest when we have nothing left to lose. Within hours, the biological agent spread throughout the command ship. The Ricari crew, from soldiers to officers, fell ill. Not dead, but too weak to fight or command. The mighty vessel hung in orbit, effectively neutralized. On Earth, the tide turned decisively. Without orders from their command ship, Ricari forces fell into disarray. Some fought to the end. Others surrendered or retreated to their remaining ships. 3 days later, Harrison and her team returned to Earth in a captured Ricari transport. They brought with them an unexpected prize, General Zithrak himself, taken prisoner during the confusion. Miller met them at their landing site. "You did it," he said, embracing Harrison. "We all did it," she replied. "Every human who refused to give up." They brought the Ricari general before a gathering of resistance leaders. The alien seemed smaller somehow, his arrogance gone. "Your species is unlike any we have encountered," Zithrak admitted. "We believed taking everything from you would ensure your submission. We did not understand that humans are most dangerous, when they have nothing left to lose. Remember that," Miller told him, "and tell your empire." In the weeks that followed, the remaining Ricari forces withdrew from Earth. The cost of continuing the war had become too high. The biological agent wasn't lethal, but it had proven that humans could render their soldiers ineffective. And human determination had proven stronger than alien technology. As Harrison stood watching the last alien ships leave Earth's atmosphere, Gonzalez joined her. "Do you think they'll come back?" he asked. "Maybe," she replied, "but they'll think twice about it, and we'll be ready." Earth lay in ruins, cities destroyed, populations decimated, ecosystems damaged. But humans had survived. More than survived. They had won against impossible odds, all because the Ricari never understood the simple truth they learned too late. When alien soldiers realized humans fight best with nothing left, it was already over.